Hi, I'd like to give a quick update on some of the protests coming. We've got one coming up at Maidstone outside the Lloyds Bank. Further to that, we've got the police crime panel at Maidstone. We'll be doing the Bank of England again, and there's also a protest that's going to happen in Edinburgh. We're doing these under human rights. We've got Article 10, freedom of expression, and we've got Article 11, the right to assembly in public. Now, the banks seem to think it's okay that they can just phone the police, but the police have actually been very, very good at these protests. And in fact, it's nice because the police have been wishing us well and going away. Now, some of the problem we got with this banking fraud are people like this. This is Matthew Scott. He's the Police Crime Commissioner of Kent, and although we've raised the fact of white-collar crime is happening here, he seems to ignore it. I hope he remembers that when the elections are due in May. Now, you might remember we posted this as Robert White and police evading fraud allegations, and at this one there's Brian, Trey, Tobe, and what we can see, oh, there's Mr. Scott. He's just run out the door. So this is how Kent Police deal with white-collar crime by solicitors and bankers. Oh dear, we've cleared the room, and this is Joel. He's quite a job's worth at the police crime panel. And as you can see, they've rather run away from the realism than actually do something about it. Now, a little while back, we supported Liz Watson, and thanks, Liz come up and supported us yesterday with Sheeda at the Bank of England. But these protests do work, and what you can see here is we brought the meeting to a standstill again. And from that, it's resulted now in the Police and Crime Commissioner there for West Dorset lobbying for Action Fraudless to be improved, and they can't be much worse. Onwards from that, let's have a look at some of the bits that are happening. These might be some of the other protests. So we've got the ex-Barings boss, who was controlling the Conservatives' general election fighting fund. Now, this gentleman, Lord Lumpton, is quite a wealthy man from banking, and his successes include being the vice chairman of Barings Bank, which went bust. Now, the sad thing about that is he's already on the board of Lloyds, so I don't know why this article is saying he's going to be joining Lloyds. He's already there, and he's being pitched to success. Well, not really success, is it? He's being pitch to take over from Lord Blackwell. Now, should people like Lord Lupton, who was the vice chair and played quite an important role in Barings when it collapsed, should he be running Lloyds Bank? So moving on here, and here we have Brian, and here we have Lloyds and myself. Now, what we found is quite effective is that we've been doing several of these little protests outside little branches, and again the staff will call along the police, and under Article 10 and 11 police can't do anything, and we carry on, and they tell the bank tough. This is me. This is at the latest SME Alliance meeting, where they were discussing the BBRS scheme that's coming, which, if it was right, we fully support. Here's the website for it, so please have a good look at it. The BBRS.org, Business Banking Resolution Service, resolving disputes between small and medium business and their banks. Now, the problem with it at the moment is the eligibility. We have raised this with them, and so has Nikki Turner of the SME Alliance. Now, if we go down to the eligibility part, we can see the banks that are taking part: or should be. But what they can't consider at the moment is complaints already with the Financial Ombudsman or that are in court. And we know that the banks conceal and hide bits. I've actually, on my own case, I've got evidence where the Lloyds Bank staff have actually colluded to lie to FOSS to get the bank a FOSS decision from probably somebody who doesn't really know a lot about FOSS, about fraud and that sort of thing. And FOSS is only a civil resolution, a poor one at that. So until this is sorted out, the eligibility and the disclosure, because we need full disclosure, you're allowed a DSAR, a data subject access request, in 30 days of requesting it. But a lot of the banks are ignoring this. So we need the ICO to work with the BBRS and make sure this happens. But at the moment, the BBRS website is saying that due to this FOSS restraint and other bits, it's only applicable to really, people with 3 left feet and who drive a pink polka dot car. So sort it out, please, BBRS. Otherwise, you won't get our support. If you do sort it out and you make it fair, then we will get involved. Now, moving on from there, this is the protest yesterday at the Bank of England and arranged by William May. And we was highlighting the fact that Mr. Bailey at the FCA, he really doesn't do his job. So as he doesn't do his job, he doesn't deserve brownie points to be the next governor of the Bank of England. So, come on, government, wake up. So there's William, a little wave from William. Okay, so that's one of the places we're going to be going back to. We've then got the mortgage prisoners. Now they're doing quite a bit of good, and they were demonstrating outside John Glenn's office. Here we are. We talk an awful lot to Dave Farndon, and John Glenn wouldn't come out. What's all that about? So moving on from there, here's the Mortgage Prisoners website and some of the other protests they've been doing. They went to Sajid Javid and they found him out pitching for votes. Well, this is Sajid Javid, who with John Glenn said that only mortgage prisoners who have got no arrears would be able to port their mortgage over to other places, and if not, stuff you. So, come on, sort it out. I want to then come on to this gentleman, John Giddy. He's started doing the hunger strikes. This gent had 141 buy-to-let properties. From what I know, a good landlord. And John's own property now, due to vulture funds of Clydesdale, Virgin Bank, could now lose everything because the MPs and that are just not doing enough. So John did a hunger strike. He's made himself feel through it. So we thought, as Lloyd's victims, we're support too. So we've got Lizelle, there's Brian there again, but also others at our protest outside the Lloyd's, which are a really scruffy building in Bristol. We had great support. We had Juliet and Ash come along. We had David. We had Lizelle. We had Anna, Alan Richards, Mike McGrath, Joan and Steve come up. We even had Anthony Stansfield come along on the last day. The great thing with that, we gave an awful lot of leaflets out to the staff of Lloyds Bank, and some of their staff were actually in tears when they heard about the, suicide threats and sort of children self-harming, thanks to the greed of Lloyds Bank, and thanks to the fact that Andrew Bailey and the politicians keep allowing this to happen, and they really don't need to. We need our banks back under British rule, and until that happens, our banking system is being corrupted by criminal mafia. This is the Extinction Rebellion. They went to court. The police were harassing them and saying they couldn't do their protest in London. They took it to court, and the High Court found in their favour. So this sort of thing can work. So I'd just like to finish and say, please come and support us. We get out on the street, they can't stop us. The banks are getting told bug off by the police, and there it is. So if I'd run over Maidstone, 19th and 20th of November, we'll be outside the Lloyds Bank in Maidstone. We'll then be highlighting the failure of the police crime panel of Mr. Scott and others on it, where they really don't take white collar crime as it should be. And then we'll be back at the Bank of England on the 12th of December, and there's also going to be another protest on the 12th of December, but we'll release more on that later, and that will be protest about the frauds by Lloyds Bank. Thank you very much.